guys, so today I've got a mystery box of mods that I'm going to fit to the Scrambler. Oh, and there's a discount in the description below, so check that out if you want to save doll hairs. Back to the video. I'm going to do it down at Skinny's garage. For those that don't know, a couple of my friends and I got together a couple of years back and started the Social Garage. It's a space that operates as a normal mechanical garage during the day, and then weeknights and weekends it becomes a social garage where people can bring their own bikes, they become members, and they can learn how to work on their bikes under the supervision of a mechanic. So that's where we're going today to fit these mystery mods, so stick around and I'll show you exactly what the secret is. Right, so today we've got a very special present from Pegz. I've been wanting to get a set of these for a long time now because I do love the Triumph pegs, but they are just that little bit narrow on your foot. So they do get a little bit sore after a long day of riding off-road on your feet. As you can see as well, these are quite wide, so they spread the weight over your entire boot. And they also, like in the name, pivot as you tilt forward on the bike, so you've got control of the bike when you're moving backwards and forwards to shift the center of gravity. And we're going to do an install. It's going to be a really quick one today, so let's get to it. Okay, so here's a quick list of all the tools you're going to need to do this job. All we've got to do is locate this little circlip, get our circlip pliers in there. If you don't have this, you can still do it with like a flathead screwdriver and a set of pliers, but just be careful that you don't damage it, that's all. You can still pull that off quite easily. You can probably see there, I've got it most of the way. There it goes. So one quite annoying thing I realized after I'd already started was this pin doesn't actually come all the way out because it hits that, the gear selector. So what you have to do, put that back in, 8mm spanner, and undo your gear selector just to be able to get that off. Now make sure you keep an eye on where this sits. Basically the way I do it is just to be like, okay, I know that where my position of the gear lever is just below where the peg is. I might even need to adjust this anyway because the pivot pegs might have a higher offset, so they might sit higher and I might need to adjust this in the end anyway. So it's probably a smart move by Triumph to make you do that, to be honest, because you know, if you just ripped them off and put new pegs on, you'd have to end up adjusting stuff anyway. I'm sure it was an ingenious engineer that thought of that, because you'd be surprised at the level of planning and detail that goes into these things. So once you've got that bolt out, what you want to do is get this screwdriver, just a little flathead's fine. Might need to wiggle it back and forth a little bit. There's a fair bit of dirt in mine. Ah, there we go. A little bit of pressure from the flathead just back on that. Shifts it off nicely. There's a fair bit of grit in there, so I'll probably give that a real good clean. Give that a clean. Always try and make sure that I locate the bolt back where I'm gonna put it back in, because I've got a terrible memory. So you can see there we've got the three pieces. You can see there we've got the three pieces of the peg and the little stay in there. So that's what holds your peg in. That's it. Pretty simple, and now we'll go to installing the pivot pegs. Okay, so the way that you want to get it on is you put this little bit up here first, right? And then there's this at the back is going to try and push you away this way. So what you want to do is kind of push it enough that you're pushing the tension onto the spring. You can see the spring starting to bend, and as it starts to bend, you want to rotate the pivot peg up and then slot that into the top hole. And then if you're struggling to get through the bottom hole as well, you can just put a little bit of tension, rock tension back and forth like this on the entire peg so that it twists into the right spot. And just put your circlip back on. Once it's in there, it should just hold, and Bob's your mother's brother, you've got a pivot pegs. So you can see when your foot goes on these pegs, they can actually tip backwards and forwards, which is pretty cool, because when you're going off-road, it'll make it way easier for you to balance backwards and forwards as you ride, so you've got much better control. I did find that on long rides, my feet felt like they were doing this, like curving around the peg, and that's actually why I got these. Now, obviously the Triumph pegs come with that rubber insert. These actually you can get with the pegs from Pivot Pegs, and they just fit straight on top there. If I will probably ride off-road with them off, but when I'm just riding around normally on the road, they do come with some zippy tyres, so I'd recommend using the zippy tyres to just make sure that they stay on. They've got little notches in here to hold them on, and then when you want to go off-road, you want really gnarly grip, you can just take them off. Piece of cake. I always carry some zip ties on my bike anyway, so just before I put that back on, I'm going to give this a nice clean with a toothbrush. This is really handy to take camping with you too, because I always forget my toothbrush, so worst case, yeah, you can always just brush your teeth with a bunch of oil. Lube up that smile. Okay, so all clean, nice and ready. Just make sure I'm gonna get that gear selector in the right spot so that when I'm riding the bike, I'm able to get the gears all good. Straight on, didn't even need the hammer. And put this bolt back in. Okay, so once that's all done up, make sure that it's done to the torque spec in the manual, and then when you get on your bike, before you take off, just make sure you check that your boot, you can get your toe under, and you get gear selector just fine. Throw these bobbers on, and then off to the next side. Look, this side is basically the same as the last side, except easier because you don't have to remove the gear selector. So I've got it in fast motion. You can slow it down or pause it if you need to. Otherwise, it's the exact same as the other side. So now we're going to take it out for a test ride. Firstly, big thanks to Timmy and Andy for coming out for a test ride and helping me to get this footage. You'll notice Timmy's riding the Yamaha T7 there. He's actually got some pivot pegs on his bike too, and he raves about them, as well as a bunch of my other friends. They've got them on their DRZs and all those sorts of bikes. So they make a bunch of different pegs to fit a bunch of different bikes. So if you're not riding a Scrambler, definitely still check them out and see if they've got the pegs for your model. So what you're seeing here is I'm just testing the levers, like the brake lever and the gear lever, to make sure that they're in the right position, that my toes can get under them while I'm wearing adventure boots. And while they felt a little funny at first, I actually felt more confident once I got used to them. So keep that in mind if you're looking at this mod. Alright, well that's basically it for this week. I'm working on a bunch more stuff, so stick around, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.